Hello, I'm Louise Ross, the author of Women Who Walk, How 20 Women from 16 Countries Came to Live in Portugal, and the companion read or sequel, The Winding Road to Portugal, 20 Men from 11 Countries Share Their Stories. And these two books are a collection of mini memoirs. The stories of 20 women and 20 men from very diverse cultural backgrounds who move country to country, sometimes independently, sometimes with partner and or family en route to a life in Portugal, though for some it wasn't their final destination. And today I've asked Ben Foran, one of the interviewees from The Winding Road, to read a couple of pages from his story, and then we'll talk a bit about his journey. Ben was born in Tenerife, grew up in Australia, and emigrated to the UK. And then in 2019, he moved to Portugal with his brother Ricky, who couldn't join us today, but who shares his story alongside Ben's in The Winding Road. And not long after Ben and Ricky moved here, they opened a specialty coffee cafe and wine bar in Lisbon. But since the COVID pandemic, it's been a challenging time to operate a cafe. So I wanted to start by saying, welcome, Ben, and how are you and Rick doing with this latest lockdown that we're experiencing in Portugal?
Hey Louise. Yeah, I mean we've shut the doors for now because they can't. We're not allowed to serve coffee takeaway.
Not even
so we've just shut
the door.
No, we can't do that. No. So yeah, that sort of made it a bit pointless to try. I mean, we do serve quite a bit of food, but we're more of a coffee destination, and then a bit of food on the side.
Right.
So yeah, it wasn't worth it. So we just shut the doors, turn the power off, and ride it out.
Okay, you're going to ride it out, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, good luck with that. I mean, you've got a lot of really loyal customers, so I'm sure when you open up again, people will arrive and be ready to drink coffee,
Hopefully.
drink wine, and eat up.
Yeah. Well, we're doing lots of coffee deliveries in the meantime, so.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So for now, I just go out and sell the beans to people, and or any equipment that they need to make coffee at home.
Right.
So that's keeping me pretty busy.
Yeah. And how do people find you? Neighborhood Cafe, do they go online to buy or order their coffee, or do they come to you in Santos to order, I don't know, directly?
Yeah, so we have the website neighborhoodlisbon.com, and most of it comes through Instagram actually. So people just message on Instagram, oh, I want 500 grams. Yep, and then we drop it off.
Fantastic. So they look for Neighborhood Lisbon on Instagram?
Yeah, neighborhood.lisbon.
Neighborhood.lisbon on Instagram, and order their coffee beans directly from you.
Yep.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
All right. So you're going to read a little excerpt from your story today. Are you good to go?
Yep. Ready?
All right.
So, okay. So I was back in London working as a surveyor. After 4 years in the Royal Engineers, I was getting into good wine and contemplating going freelance so I could earn some good money and open up a wine bar. My brother, who was living and working in London, and I were at the point of thinking about the next step of opening a business together, a specialty coffee cafe and wine bar, and a one day of settling somewhere and having families. Knowing full well that London was too expensive for us, we made cost of living spreadsheets for several possible countries. And we also had a criteria that had to be met: great surf, good weather, diverse culture, epic food, wine, beer, and a mellower lifestyle. Bali, Berlin, and Amsterdam didn't make the cut. And even though we'd been to Portugal surfing a few times, it didn't register as a possibility. But then a guy Ricky knew from the coffee shop that he worked at kept saying to him that Lisbon was the place to be. He said, I'll put the money in if you guys open up your cafe in Lisbon. He offered us a fully funded reconnaissance trip to check things out. I had some reservations about this bloke who was buffed up, covered in tattoos, and doing private security for high-end Middle Eastern dudes. which to me translated as mercenary or at least gangster. Regardless, in October 2018, we took up his offer and came to Lisbon for 4 days. Over the weekend, two of our guys' henchmen, equally big and buffed up, covered in tattoos, picked us up in a Mercedes and took us across the bridge from Lisbon to Costa Caparica for dinner. It was a very pleasant evening, but they literally threw money at us. It was all too easy and sweet. We figured we were being set up to wash money. We made a point of saying we had our accountant go over the numbers, and that was that. We never heard from them again. On our remaining night in Lisbon, we went out for a few drinks and walked along Lago de Conbarão, looking out for shops and spaces for rent. While I was on the phone talking to my dad about our weekend, I managed to step into a pothole and keel over. As Rick was helping me out, he saw a kebab shop on a corner site with outside seating. Right then, we knew it was a great position with potential. We took pictures. 2 months later, Rick came back to Lisbon, showed the pictures to a real estate agent who basically said we'd never get that place. It's been a kebab shop for years with no sign of folding. In 2019, the agent called us. He said, "You're never going to believe it, the kebab shop's for rent." Once we both decided to quit chasing the Gucci bag in London and settle for the simpler life Portugal was offering, we moved over and started renovating, setting up the space with money from our investor and my army stash. That was May 2019. We opened up Neighborhood, our specialty coffee cafe and wine bar, September 2019. And our plan is eventually to open several more cafes.
Thanks, Ben.
No worries.
That was great. I picked out that paragraph because I actually love that story about the buffed up henchman.
Yeah, that was an experience.
Yeah, trying to get you to wash money. I mean, the both of you have had a pretty extraordinary life, and this excerpt is only a snippet. I say extraordinary because it's really been up and down and definitely a winding road for the both of you, given your childhood in Australia. And just tell me a little about what happened with your dad and his business.
Well, basically, Dad was always in business ever since we were a kid, and I think it was the 2010 financial crisis.
Yeah, 2008.
Just hit him hard. Yeah, 2008. Hit him hard, and that was it. Lost everything, every single penny, the house, everything gone. Yeah. So we went from having this sort of privileged upbringing, having whatever we wanted, to not having anything at all. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and then experience. The family kind of comes together, and you all support your parents to basically start again. And and then you end up in London, and you join the Royal Army Corps, and you head off to various deployments in the Middle East and Canada and the Falkland Islands, was it, or the Greenland?
Yeah, pretty much. I went everywhere they can send you. It was just a constant. I was like one of the few guys that could do my job that I did, which was the surveying. So I literally went from one place to the next place to the next place, and it was a constant bag packed for the whole 5 years.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But then, as you say, that gives you this army stash as you segue out to start this next part of your journey. Meanwhile, Rick's life has been just up and down and up and down, trying to make his way in London as a barista, and he wants to own his own cafe. And he has some really interesting times as well. And then together, you decide to move here. And I think what I found really interesting about your story is that perhaps because of your childhood, you and Rick have this, what I assume is a really strong connection, and you decide to make this move to Portugal together and then open up this cafe. And there's something almost like karmic about the way it happens. It just literally opens up for you when you find this space.
Yeah.
At one point you said to me, you know, we're not spiritual guys, but you really had to sort of think about how this had just presented itself to you, this space that you could rent and start your dream of owning a cafe. Do you want to comment on that at all?
Yeah, it was all kind of a bit weird. Everything just seemed a little bit too easy. I mean, a lot of people we spoke to um, were in Lisbon for a year looking for a space, but even longer sometimes. And we just sort of lucked upon this space, and then we, within 6 months of signing the lease, we had the doors open. So I think it's pretty unheard of when you speak to other people in Portugal. So it was all kind of lucky. But then I think our reality check was COVID. It was like, okay, yeah, luck's run out now. Now you're in like literally the worst time in 70 years to open up a business. So.
And yet there's something really tenacious about the both of you. And I also wonder if that's because of the experience you had as teenagers when your dad lost everything in the global economic collapse, and you all pulled together and you just started again. Do you think that experience has really given you the inner resources to just keep going, to believe in what you're doing and just keep at it despite COVID?
Yeah, I definitely think it's got something to do with it, and also our dad's work ethic has definitely rubbed off on the both of us. I know for me, one of the things is like every penny that I saved in the army, sleeping in the middle of the desert in Afghanistan, and then sleeping in the middle of the desert in Kenya, soaking wet, freezing. And it's like, yeah, I worked for this point, so now I have to make it work.
Yeah.
So, but I think, yeah, a lot of it is the core work ethic that Dad set into us.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
I understand. Well, thanks so much, Ben. Thanks for sharing your excerpt and a little of your story. And again, if people are interested to read more about Ben and Ricky's story, it's in The Winding Road to Portugal. 20 men from 11 countries share their story. Thanks so much, Ben, and I hope to see you back
No
at
worries.
the cafe when it opens up.
Yep, cool. Thanks, Louise.